All right, what do you guys want to talk about first? Let's talk about Fitbit and the secondary jam job nightmare shit show of offering that they flopped out on Wall Street after announcing absolutely huge numbers. Fitbit gadget device, little tchotchkes you put on your wrist. My friend Josh has called them Lance Armstrong wristbands for a new generation, which is a really good line. So I should have stolen it without attribution, but we wrote a book together, so, the line gets blurry. Anyway, that's secondary. Why should you be concerned? It seems like a small offer. And they did an interview with him on financial television where the CEO, James Park, kind of got away with, I don't know. I'll let you decide exactly how to characterize this. Because his response to the questioning from from David Faber on, hey, why are you selling all the stock? Which was an awesome bit of understatement by Faber, by the way. I mean, the guy is really super smart, and so there's no denying that David Faber's a really sharp guy. Very nicely phrased question, and Park's response was to the effect of gosh, this will keep all of our key shareholders locked up for an additional 90 days. And of course, the blather in the earnings release last night that releasing the shares early, meaning the lockup was supposed to expire in December, but we're going to go ahead and just dump a ton of shares on the market starting now. It's doing that would facilitate a more orderly distribution of shares into the stock market. Shares are down now 7% on Fitbit after the best quarter the company probably will ever report. Does that look orderly to you? Does it look normal to you? So actually, I kind of reached out to a few people because I can't remember a single time in history of investing when one of these spot secondaries wasn't the sign of a top. So I'm thinking of Zynga. They did the same thing. In normal S1s, you have a lockup period of 180 days, meaning that as a shareholder, as an investor, you can count on the fact that if you buy this IPO, the company's not going to dump shares on the market within 180 days, 6 months, give or take. So to ignore that is a big deal because it's lying. It's JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, just being full of shit. Just flat out, just like, her word doesn't really mean that much. And so you have to come back to that because core to any financial system is trust. And when banks and companies blatantly lie to you, it erodes trust, which raises your cost of capital. This is not a nice feel-good thing. You don't have to believe in this. I don't care what you're saying. The argument of a company should get the money while they can get the money, and that's just fine. It's kind of okay if your company's about to go bankrupt, but if you're in a situation where you plan to exist as a company, continue offering money and going to the capital markets, when you break those promises in an S1, you can legally get away with it, although companies pay lawyers top dollar for it, but the investing class never trusts you ever again. So if you look at Zynga, they did this a couple years ago. They offered shares 40 days, something after they went public, $12. It's down 80% since. GoPro was 93 bucks a share when they first floated the idea of, let's do a secondary. And we'll do a secondary for all these altruistic reasons. That stock now down 25. So when Fitbit does this ahead of the fourth quarter, which should be the hugest time of the year for selling these cruddy little devices. This should be the peak quarter ever for Fitbit, and they chose to do this secondary now after reporting big numbers. So I kind of get it, but the reasons they're giving are BS. The idea that this will somehow facilitate an orderly flow of shares into the market, also garbage, demonstrably garbage. Just thinking of the two spot secondaries, because not every company does this. Not every company says, we're just going to ignore everything we put in the S1 because even though we signed it and Reg FD says we should go to prison if we violate it, we're going to do it anyway. Oh well. So what they're doing is they're just going to go ahead and do this. It's always marked a top. And the question with Fitbit and the problem with this offering is that are they just a one device kind of one trick pony? It's really easy to do corporate sales once. It's really hard to do them on an ongoing basis if you're just a little rubber band that people put around their wrist and it badgers people to go into the gym. You can chop it up any way you want to, but it doesn't make any sense. And so the market's right to bid this stock down. The market's right to hate this. Because if Fitbit really had great business, they would do this thing in January or February to help facilitate and create more demand. They could get a higher price for the shares because presumably those numbers are going to be so good. If, on the other hand, hypothetically, I'm not accusing anybody of anything, but if you're kind of evil and running a device company, what you do is jam the inventory channels ahead of Christmas, go to all your retail partners and say, buy these things up. We record them as sales. The numbers look fantastic. We'll dump a crud load of shares onto the market at top dollar and everything will be just fine, won't it? That's great financial planning if you're friends with the CEOs of these companies. I mean, God knows Zynga is better off having sold at 12 than selling at 2 now. But the problem is, as an investor, should you trust them? No. Should you erode your faith in the company? Yes. Does it call into question the very reason, the raison d'etre of this company remaining independent for a foreseeable period of time? Yeah. Because the inside investors who are selling know more about the firm than you do. You're being asked to buy it. I kind of have conflated the two events after spending way too many hours with a sick dog the last 2 days. Things get a little murky. With basically that guy from Taco Bell, I think it was, who was riding in the Uber and he started beating the crap out of the Uber driver. He immediately found work, and what he's doing today is he's on the phone selling these Fitbit secondary shares to investors and just beating the crap out of them if they don't do it. It's going to take that level of aggression, selling tactics to make it move. Run away is my thought on that. I would anyway. Just run. You can't run fast enough away from any time people are violating it. And why would you believe a single thing that you read in any kind of public filing that this company makes ever again in history? Because they just lied to you on the most important public filing of their life. So, that's a problem. Anyway, Activision, Fitbit, we're done with them. Get them out of here. Activision squashing the shorts. They bought King Digital, $6 billion, give or take, they paid for it. Amazing. Simply amazing. Bobby Kotick, I don't have Activision long. I wish I did. They're up huge this year. Electronic Arts up huge this year. Video game industry doesn't get nearly enough respect. It was one of my favorites anyway. It's Activision making the best games. Yeah. See that? Call of Duty right there, Ron. Kind of cool. I'm kind of a WWE guy. 2K, right? Yep. 2K crushes. So we got that. It's video games are super duper cyclical. It's an enormous industry, much bigger than the film industry. You do a release of something like a Halo, it's going to just dwarf in terms of the dollar value and the amount of mind share that it has in a small segment anything that you are going to see released from Hollywood. So, how does Activision do it? I don't know, but 11% of this company was out there short, which is relatively high. And right now, those people are getting relatively stomped. So if they live in California, I think you could actually use that as a reason to give your doctor to give you a script for medicinal pot because you're hurting in a very tangible way if you're short Activision. I wouldn't short any of them going into Christmas. You know why? Because Christmas is a huge freaking season for people who are selling to retail consumers. Fitbit knows that too. Everyone on earth knows that. Don't trust any company that actually is going to tell you otherwise. Fitbit getting out a big bad thing. Nintendo ain't doing bad either. Nintendo comeback story, right? Try to kill Mario. Mario is like as old as me. 30-something years old. Doesn't matter. Still out there chasing it. And really, what did that ape do? If you think about the entire plotline of Donkey Kong, Mario is the bad guy. He's evil. He's trying to abduct this princess. Does she have no agency? Is she not allowed to tell the ape who she wants to go with? It's just kind of crap. It's based on a lie, but yet it still marches onward. Video game companies never bet against them. They're awesome. They transcend generations. They've gone mainstream. That Twitch thing is nuts. ESPN, half their programming, near as I can tell since I moved west, I actually watch daytime ESPN sometimes. There are entire programs on Disney's ESPN just that are like dudes playing Madden. Dudes playing Madden. Hey, it's dudes playing Madden. And they sit around and they talk, and that is the entire premise for shut-ins who don't have anyone to play Madden with. And it does apparently pretty good ratings. So we'll see when Disney reports. But video games, super duper crazy mainstream. Don't bet against them. Not in an upcycle, because we finally have, with the next-gen boxes, meaning the ones that aren't really next-gen if you're kind of on the edge of these things, they're finally in enough houses and have big enough penetration that you're going to see these games just do their monster numbers. The video game cycle's really in its prime this year, next, and possibly the year after that. So you can do what you want with these stocks, but to me, the choices are buy and hold, or just don't be involved at all. If you want to short them, man, you better have really good research, because it's just not the play. Not to play right here, not to play right now. Speaking of devices, Apple. I got the new Apple TV. It sucks. I was trying to think of a gentle way to phrase it, but I could not do that. If you'd like entering passwords and scrolling through to enter your name and stuff, boy, it's for you. I got tired of it. I don't remember half my passwords. It's really, really miserable out of the box. I don't know how many of these iterations Tim Cook gets before people notice that the new products are all kind of bad. We're not asking for a second iPhone, but Apple TV just doesn't seem done yet, which is weird. So I immediately regretted spending $169. Excuse me. And that's the problem with Apple going forward. All right, let's do Q&A. Markets making highs. We're actually taking out all kinds of levels. 2100 on the S&P. As predicted, with a chilling chart. I believe it was a mushroom cloud with a plane flying away. Once the S&P got over resistance, it was off to the races. Not a lot of people long. And it's IMAX for Star Wars. Let's cut to the question, shall we? Have you guys gone to those new IMAX theaters? When I was a kid, which was back in 03 or 4, 1,005 years ago, IMAX was huge. Now you go and they've kind of rejiggered all the theaters to make IMAX small. We weep for the children and it's sad. Will they do better off Star Wars? I think it's priced in. If ever in the history of man there was an entertainment product that wasn't going to sneak out into the marketplace, it's been Star Wars. Let's just say that they know it's coming. Should it be cool? Maybe, but are we relying on it a little too much? I don't know. I mean, it's as you get older, you rely more and more on sort of the kids to tell you what's going on. And my kids have no interest in Star Wars whatsoever. Other kids probably do, but we'll see. Win, trending positive. Win beaten down so long, I don't know which way is up. Maybe Win himself probably wouldn't do it, just because you're going to get bounces on these things. Valiant is trading a little off today, which is bad. FIFA, EA servers are shit. Yeah, I know, but you see, they can work those problems out. And the fact that you can come up with the servers and that you're playing online video games with people a million miles away is still enough of a miracle that it's a demographic shift, and huge. Get disconnect on every game. Email with EA. Worst pro management drawdown. Most satisfying trade. For me, elaborate on that question. My personal biggest drawdown or the best trade that I ever made? Yeah, isn't a complex answer. Anyway, we'll work on that. My worst personal drawdown, I think, was 15%, 20%. It was not good. Best personal trade I made was the Purple Crayon origin, which was selling the bubble. After it broke trend support, I was long info space for about a quintuple. Realized there was no way to fundamentally manage it, so decided I would sell it when it broke the trend line. And that worked very, very well. Pro trade, I mean, that's what I'm talking about, pro trade. Did really well on that. Best ever investment as a personal trade was buying into Nixon watches. You guys ever seen those? A buddy of mine from business school started Nixon watches in 1997. And I went in small and made really nice return. My friend Andy Lotz, brilliant guy. Went completely old school with what basically amount to swatches. We thought he was a little insane, just thought Andy was a super good and smart guy, so invested with him, and it was really nice. So that's the best ever private investment. Best ever professional investment has been, that I'm long now, is probably Disney. Just because sometimes you immediately get it, and if you had kids, once you saw them buying the Marvel guys, we immediately got it. It was all of a sudden we had a reason to take our son to Disney World. That was a huge, huge deal. You rich dudes always got it right. See, he wasn't rich at the time, and so there is no real secret cabal of rich people. Rich people tend to reward other folks who bring them good ideas and add value. In terms of professional advice, if you want to crack the inner circle of rich dudes who always know someone, add value. Start a company, create some mojo for other people, help them, and it'll pay forward. It's just the way things work. All right. So what else do we got? Look up Nixon. Yeah, check them out. It's a private company. They got bought a long time ago. It's a division of some other thing. But I ran into Nixon just the other day, and it was awesome. It's every time I see the brand, I smile and kind of rub my kids' heads affectionately and say, that watch right there funds your lifestyle. Hasbro, no thank you. No thank you indeed. Mattel is doing okay. Hasbro, they've both been left for dead. You can really see it's as over the last few weeks, I think, it's metastasized. The idea of these companies that have been doing buybacks and have not been able to modify their business plan. What Hasbro and Mattel didn't seem to understand is that they're in the business of entertaining kids. They're not in the business of making Barbie. And as a result, they're looking a lot like IBM, which is not meant as a compliment. They just look kind of dead and dull and dated. And they are, so how do you go about investing? How do you catch up with them? You're them. Well, your balance sheet doesn't look like it should because you've been doing these ridiculous buybacks and dividends trying to be a value stock. And man, you're going to have to go buy something. It's one thing for Activision with huge, raging, ridiculous cash flows to go buy King Digital, and everyone wanted to short Activision on that. But as it turns out, if you have a lot of cash, $6 billion isn't that huge a deal. If you don't have a lot of cash, it'll kill you. Right now, Activision's rolling in cash. Fitbit, for that matter, is rolling in cash. The more you look into that offer, the worse this deal looks. Insane, the amount they're selling out. GoPro has a lot of cash, and that doesn't matter either. Having cash on the balance sheet, doing buybacks, ignore it. If you want to be a long-term investor, the best thing you do is want to look at your CapEx and just see what you're getting for it. IBB, nice bounce. But, it's biotechs are edgeless. They're really an ink blot test, a psychological form of testing people's mood that's been largely discredited, involving splotching ink spots and asking people what they see. And supposedly if the respondent says something like, I see my mother coming at me with an axe while I'm in the bathtub, it's bad response. But meaning that the IBB, if the market's in a good mood, which it is, people will chase it higher. The market's in a bad mood, which it's clearly not, except for the shorts or Ackman, people will run away. And so really the IBB is a nice way. I think of it as kind of a way to trade the S&P with a little bit of more oomph on it, where you still get the liquidity and you don't have to jack it up, meaning if you call the S&P right, the move I talked about on 2020, it got like 3%, 4% higher from there. That was a great call, but man, 4% is really not that much to eat on. You could just buy a lot of other stocks that have high beta and do pretty well with them. Facebook earnings later this week, Disney earnings later this week, still kind of nauseous about both those things. We'll talk more about them tomorrow. Ahead of Facebook, I expect those numbers to be huge. Amazon opening a bookstore. Did you guys hear about that? Everyone says, oh my God, look at that. Amazon's opened their first bookstore, Circle of Life. They've killed everyone. Amazon had a store last year. A year ago. Amazon had physical retailers. People miss the point of Amazon all the time. It was never about putting the physical retailers out of business. It was about distributing things to customers in a way they want in the best possible format. JW Nordstrom, killing it with Nordstrom Rack. Totally, 150% agree with that statement. That is absolutely true. And eventually that stock will get rewarded for killing it with Nordstrom Rack. Because the outlet malls are growing. The idea that malls are going to die is just stupid. Outlet malls are replacing all of what you're seeing in the drop-off in the old malls. Of course, ancient malls are dying. I grew up next to Southdale. We could ride our bikes to Southdale. Ed Duren, I think it was, a socialist from the 50s, Austrian guy, he designed Southdale as a way to break through the banality of the suburbs. Southdale is now a dying mall. People think that that's just this horrible, tragic sign that consumers are only going to shop at home. That's bullshit. We've been gathering at marketplaces for thousands of years. Human beings are social. That's the same reason we go to movie theaters. Which brings us back to IMAX. Did I answer that question? The answer is, I don't think so on IMAX, not for Star Wars. The technology is kind of cool, but it also makes you want to throw up a little bit and very expensive to shoot in that format. The screens are just a little bit bigger. It's not the IMAX we used to know. I'm not that fired up on it. Better than the 3D stocks, but not that good. Another rich friend, Illuminati. I would love to be in the Illuminati. Is there a form I can fill out or something? Because that would be kind of cool. I got the hand signals now and everything else. All right, folks, that's Panic for today. Unless someone asks one really good question in the next 30 seconds, I'm Mackie. I'm long stocks. Wish I had more. Glad I'm not long fit. That's your takeaway for the day. You guys have a great, fantastic afternoon. Get out of the house and don't buy secondaries of fly-by-night companies with consumer products that'll probably be uncool after this year.